and we just had the spring break. So I'm in a pretty happy position, I would say.
Excellent, excellent.
How about you? How is work for you?
Well, it is busy. It is actually good busy. Uh, Couple interesting new clients, and it's all in all quite a good place to be.
Awesome. I was very much looking forward to today's conversation. I'm hoping to cover two important tenets out of the 10 tenets of effective leadership. And those two are for me, they are very, very important. I have found just the awareness about them to be absolutely critical in my professional life. So far, I have really benefited just being aware of these two tenets.
Mhm.
So I'm very, very curious to hear your thoughts, build or strengthen my perspectives further on those. So these two are, we are going to talk about mastery of influencing and sales skills and enhanced emotional and social intelligence. Uh, Two of the areas I would say around which a lot has been spoken about, but whenever I learn more about them, I become better as a professional. So that's the reason I am really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on both of these.
There is certainly a lot to be learned and a lot to be done. Yes, there is also plenty of literature around, and yeah, well, look, if you think about as a leader, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you are always in sales mode. You are always in sales mode.
Yes,
You
yes.
you need, in essence, you need to sell your ideas. You need to sell how you would like to progress to either to your own people, to your team, or to an investor, or to a customer, or to a vendor. You're always in sales mode. And when I say sales mode, I don't mean the, how shall I say this, the second-hand car type sales mode. If
I
I
think
may,
that's a role of the past. I would say that that's how one used to always wonder that sales, the imagination used to be a used car salesman, which is
yes.
so outdated now. And like you rightly said, as an entrepreneur, I think even as a professional, as a leader, we are all in a role which requires selling, which requires moving others. And sales is about moving others. Sales is about influencing and moving others. Um,
Absolutely.
so I think we all
Absolutely.
need to revise our visualization of what comes to my mind when we think of sales, because it has become an integral part of almost every other job. Not only entrepreneurs, I would say, but yeah, for entrepreneurs, like you rightly said, it is even more important to realize the importance of influencing others and moving others, because
Mhm.
we are always either selling to a customer, to an investor, to employees, to people we want to hire. It's always like you rightly said. We are always in that mode.
If we talk about influencing, we talk about engaging people,
Hmm.
making them part of something, helping them to buy into. Ideally, whatever we'd like to see, what we'd like to see to be realized, you want to get the people involved, no matter if it's a buyer, if it's a vendor, if it's a investor, or if it's your team, your employees, your co-workers. You want them, in essence, to own whatever that direction is. So it's influencing and engaging, and of course there, there are also, when you think about sales is really, or in itself is the I'll call it the buying selling process. It's two distinct processes that have to fall into place in a coordinated fashion. And that's the task of the person that is selling. That's a sales professional does that coordinates those steps and coordinates the flow of the process. And if you think about it, that if you if you think about the stages of the buying decision, it's identifying a want or a need. It's a research and gather information. It's about evaluating of available alternatives. It's about making then a purchasing or procurement decision, executing the actual purchase, and then post-purchase evaluation, finding out what's if it was right, if it could have been better, if it produced what you wanted to produce with this purchase. So that's that part. And of course, then you have the actual selling process, which is introducing yourself and your company, and then gaining favorable attention, and creating the connection with whoever is the buyer, or whoever you want to have engaged into going to the next step. Then it's identifying wants and needs, discovering wants and needs, which is a process in itself. Uh, Great book for that, by the way, that I like is QBS, Question-Based Selling. And then it's about presenting the benefits and the consequences of that buying decision, getting commitment and follow-up. So these two processes have to fall into place like a good gearbox, like the gears working together. And that's the job of the sales professional or the leader. It's the same thing. That's what I'm saying. As a leader, you are always in some sort of a sales mode, because you need to engage people towards a common purpose, towards a common goal, and to generate that progress or that change that you want to generate. And that is about influencing them. And if you understand that yourself, about yourself, you will automatically create more understanding with those that you interact with. And that's, to me, the emotional intelligence component. Social intelligence is take this and put it onto a group level. Then that's kind of how group systems act and are built and will react and will form and formulate. That's, to me, the social intelligence component. Also, when you take then different platforms of our interactions nowadays, the different digital platforms, we also call them social media. I don't know if there is anything social about this media, but we call it that way. And then there are these social platforms that we utilize, and really that the real social interaction is still the person to person, the face to face, providing that tactile, three-dimensional way. I mean, what we have here, it looks a little bit three-dimensional because video technology is good enough. But it isn't really. I mean, if we would be sitting across each other over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, it would be a different feeling. Now, of course, I don't know if that answers the question from a definition
It does.
perspective, but
It does.
this
I
is the
actually
way
like,
I look at it.
and I like your definition, by the way. It's more
And
practical.
again,
That's the reason.
it
Yeah.
may not meet the academic criteria.
Mm. No, but it's easier to understand and apply also. So I'm gonna go back to how you define emotional intelligence. Actually, first a basic question. So I think when people think of intelligence, at least in early tenure of the career, it's generally about IQ. And for me, it was through a series of failures when I first started understanding beyond IQ, the intelligence which is required to thrive in a workplace, and not only workplace, I would say even in personal situations. That's where I learned about the importance of EQ, and then later on relationship quotient or social intelligence.
Mhm.
Now I'm curious. It's a very basic one. Similar to IQ, is there a way for anyone to understand about emotional intelligence and social intelligence in terms of a score or a measure, which is now there?
I think Goldman has created a measurement. I've never followed through on that, but I think there are several assessments available that create some sort of an EQ type measure or a relative measure. Um, I haven't tried any of them. I must admit, and bless you. And it's kind of I think, look, emotions are really like an energy system,
Hmm.
and for 100 years, starting with Sigmund Freud, we thought as a human being is predominantly a psychological system. Since the mid 90s of the last century, we have figured out there is more to it. There is actually a whole energy system with chemistry and electricity behind it that works up here in this fascinating machine that we call our brain. And let's face it, we have learned that emotions are really the roots for our thinking.
Hmm.
So what we try to look at, that's emotions and that's rational thinking. The reality is emotions, any of those eight or a mixture of them, trigger our thinking. Because we have the five senses, and the five senses go first through our amygdala before the amygdala distributes them into the rest of the brain.
Hmm.
And there a whole energy machinery kicks into gear. And our emotions are really driving our behavior. They're they're creating our mindset, our daily attitude and the changes of the attitude. And so they are utterly critical and utterly important. And of course, if you I think anybody should read Emotional Intelligence 2.0 from Goldman. That's really a fantastic book that gives a very good, solid knowledge and understanding of what our emotions really are and how they influence us, because that's where it starts. Again, self-awareness in that
Hmm.
is critical, because if you don't understand yourself, it's hard to understand others and integrate others into your thinking and into your doing. And then from a leadership perspective, of course, it is absolutely crucial. And uh, if you think about another area that to me falls also somehow into that emotional component is transaction analysis, which was developed in the 30s of the last century and has evolved to a higher level by probably the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, has become for a while one of these management fads that any leader or manager had to get knowledge about. I was exposed to this in my young years, and it was very interesting. It had some. It was driven. It became a business. The whole transaction analysis (TA) movement became a business, and then of course there were some setbacks because it was overdone. But that's besides the point. But transaction analysis plays also into this emotional component, emotional intelligence, and I think and a leader that can't demonstrate and live some authentic empathy is not sustainably capable of being a leader or leading effectively. And you know, this old-fashioned thought or concept, well, this is business, leave your emotions at home, is of course BS. You can't. Your emotions are with you every moment, particularly every moment of your being awake.
Yeah.
And you can't leave them at home. They're not in a suitcase that you can put into the corner. They are an integral part of your whole energy system.
Yes, they are. And I think what I find very fascinating about both of these, Manfred, is uh, one can develop and strengthen them. Unlike IQ, where uh, there is not a lot that one does after the initial growth years are over. Both of these I have found one can develop and strengthen on a lifelong basis. Both emotional intelligence and social intelligence. Probably a large part of development actually happens once we face more complex situations later on in life. So, from your own experience as you work with executives and leaders, what is the most practical advice that you give if someone says that I want to enhance my emotional intelligence?
First, let me add something here. I heard you, in essence, say that the IQ after certain forming years of our life doesn't change anymore. Correct?
Uh, yeah, so let me slightly correct it. I think the growth that happens from an IQ perspective is more in that initial year when we are learning, assimilating, and building that IQ. Part of it is also hereditary, and part of it is when we are learning. That's what my understanding is. And the amount of impact that one creates later on is not as high if I compare with, say, emotional intelligence or social intelligence, where a lot can be done to enhance the emotional intelligence and social intelligence. That's how I was putting it, but curious to get your thoughts on this.
Okay. Again, I'm probably I'm not claiming any of this to be academically supported
Hmm.
because I haven't read everything and I haven't read enough probably. But if you think about the IQ, somebody, well, all our decision making goes through our main filter, our frame of reference. And we talked about that a little bit earlier. If you now systematically read a lot, you're interested in many things, you're accumulating every day more knowledge, more experience, more input that's being digested and processed, which adds to uh, the lens you to your frame of reference, becoming a sharper lens, a better lens, a better filter.
Hmm.
Uh, that means you make ultimately more educated and therefore more intelligent decisions, conclusions. Uh, so, so I don't know how measurable this is on the IQ scale or IQ testing perspective, but I think somebody that is what I call a lifelong learner and systematically enhances their understanding of the world around them and what's adds constantly to that basis that's then being used in your brain to interpret your emotions differently and the emotions that you sense from other people or the group itself from a social environment, you're making more intelligent decisions. And therefore, I would claim you're raising your IQ as long as you constantly learn and are open and create this wider horizon, that net that you get input and experience and expertise into.
I see what you mean, and I think probably I'll clarify there. My statement was more in that narrow sense of the IQ score, which becomes kind of stable after a certain stage, and whatever little I know that it kind of becomes stable after a certain stage. You don't increase that score. What you mean is, in a broader sense or meaning of intelligence, where the rational part comes in and you become wiser, and that wisdom you gain only by experiencing certain situations and becoming better at dealing with them later. So I think your definition is more broader, and I completely agree there that you become wiser, which is through experience,
In
versus
addition, Rahul, in
yeah,
addition, we know today about the concept that we call brain plasticity,
yeah, yeah,
which
neuroplasticity
is
and brain
the
plasticity.
ability to train your brain
Yeah.
like a muscle to become stronger constantly or maintain strength even
Hmm.
into old age.
Yeah.
And we have also learned that people that are constantly interested in the world around them and
Hmm.
constantly on a learning spree uh, have less challenges with different brain related illnesses.
Disorders. Yeah.
So there is something to that as well, which we need to at least recognize. How big the impact is or factor is, I don't know. I just know that it has an impact. Now, with emotional intelligence, of course, again, self-awareness is such a big factor in that. We need, in order to manage our emotions effectively for ourselves, because look, if I'm in a bad mood, That's in essence also a choice, because I don't have to stay in a bad mood. The other day, somebody said, I'm always a happy camper. I'm always a happy person. And I told that person, yes, and that's a choice I make. It's a deliberate choice. There is nothing for me to gain by being unhappy. And it's a question of creating a state of contentness. That doesn't mean I don't have ambitions, or I didn't have ambitions when I was younger and in my growth phase of my career. I certainly have always ambitions, and today my ambitions are different ones. Today my ambition is really I'm in a currently again in a learning phase myself, a very intense one, and it's fascinating for me. And but I'm content in it, and that's a choice. You can be content with little things and put them into your center, and you can be unhappy and moody and whatever other emotions there may be involved with anything you see. You know, everything has at least two sides.
Mm.
You can always look at the dark side, or you can look at the bright side.
So, if I have an objective to become better and enhance my emotional intelligence, and if I break it into two parts, Manfred, one is increasing my awareness of my emotional state at any
Mm-hmm.
moment,
Mm-hmm.
and second, making a choice that which emotional state do I want to be in. I'm taking the example that you gave, and
Bingo.
these are two steps. Yeah. So, then my next question is, how do I become better in becoming self aware about my emotions? A tool, a technique that you recommend or you apply or practice on your own? And second, how do I become better at making that choice about which emotional state I would want to be in? Are
Mm-hmm.
there again tools, techniques, practices that you recommend for both of these steps?
Look, it's you can call it even a coaching technique, and it also works with self-coaching. If I'll give it an example. If a client comes to me and we have our conversation, and he is telling me about a situation and how miserable that is, and how challenging and how problematic, and because of this, that, and whatsoever, and of course I listen to that, and then I will ask that client, I will ask her and say, okay, if you had a choice that is unrestricted, how would you like it to be? Describe for me how you would like that to be. And you're describing it for yourself as well. Because then we can take that desired positive picture, say, okay, we are here today. Now, what will it take to get from here to there? What would you have to do? Or what would have to take place? What would we have to initiate, buy, create, think of? Because now we are on a productive way towards a desired state, rather than staying in this crappy pool of problems that we are in the middle in. And it's not ignoring them. But if you are then bathing in that pool, it's not cool. It won't help you. You have to get out of that pool, dry yourself down from that liquid, and see where you want to go. And you can do this with self-coaching when you catch yourself being in a lousy mood and being in a, oh crap, and now this, and ah, that was the last straw, and I had that before, and this after that, and now that. Okay, what is it I want? How does that look like? How does that make me feel when I could get that? And then figure out the path. Or talk with a friend about it, or get some help to create that path.
Very helpful, Manfred. I think self-coaching, the way you described, is very helpful. I would say in both the steps, creating that self-awareness and also helping make the choice. I'm going to try some of what you just said. Personally, for me, I think as a habit, two things that have worked for me in the past. I'm just sharing about since we are on the topic of how to enhance emotional intelligence. One is daily meditation. Even if it's for a brief while, it has really helped me be reflective, being in that moment, becoming aware of my own emotions. And second is journaling. I think some of what you said in self coaching, uh, asking some questions on a daily or weekly basis in a journal and then noting them down. The act of writing, putting pen to paper, it has worked for me more effectively than just thinking about the question. Sometimes that clarity comes better when I'm writing it down actually, rather than just thinking. So I'm just adding that as a habit, not being in that situation and then self coaching, but on a regular basis, what is it that I could do to become better or enhance my emotional intelligence? These two, meditation and journaling, they have really helped me.
Yeah, I think journaling is a very powerful tool, uh, and in full transparency, I've tried it. It doesn't work with me. I did not benefit from it.
Hmm.
However, I have recommended to clients, and they have started it, and
They
it's
have
the best
benefited.
thing for them. So
Yeah.
it may not be for everyone, but it certainly meditation is another
Yeah.
tool to find. You know, it's interesting. Our brain, of course, we get all these different influences, and from time to time we need to step back for half an hour, and while we cannot truly think about nothing, it's not that doesn't function. We can focus on something, and and what we typically do in meditation, we think about our internally. We think about our breathing. We think about our heartbeat. We think about those things that we normally take for granted and don't. But it helps to blend out everything else and clear the mind and create then this new fresh slate or a fresh page of paper when we step out of it again to restart. So that is certainly very powerful and helps to well cleanse the air around us.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a habit, if one were to think of, then these two could come in as very powerful habits which compound over time to enhance the emotional intelligence. That's how I would put it. While in case of a situation that demands us to become more aware of self-coaching, the way you described is an alternative and it's a powerful one. So I think that's where I would draw the distinction that one is about proactively how do I compound my emotional intelligence and enhance it. That's where techniques like meditation, journaling would come in. And to clarify, by the way, I have also found, Manfred, that certain uh, type of meditation would work well for me. Another type might work well for me, for you, sorry. Similarly, journaling also, I think some people are better when they are given prompts. Some people are better when they take a blank piece of paper and then keep it
Mhm.
open from a journaling perspective. So I've tried a lot and I have found a sweet spot for me. I hope you also
Perfect.
somewhere find the kind of journaling that might work for you. I've really found it really beneficial.
Yeah, well, I'm not necessarily journaling, but and you can call it maybe my form of journaling. I often sit down and then write an article or write some blog or
Ah,
so. So this is probably my form of journaling because then I'm focusing on this, I'm digging into this, and and then I use it in my on my website or push it out on LinkedIn or something like that. But there is also this concept lately. It's called the limbic leader, and it's the leader that the first step to become a strong limbic leader that works with the brain is to know yourself. The next phase, once you have a good self understanding, a good self awareness, is to trust yourself. Because when you do that, you become authentic in your behavior, in your interaction. And when you do that, when you trust yourself and become this authentic leader, you automatically you become trustworthy in the eyes of
wow.
everyone else. And when you become trustworthy, people want to follow you. And that is very simple, but it's a very powerful concept of leadership self understanding.
Hmm. Very powerful, my friend. Very powerful.
Well, by the way, today I have also to that theme, I have an interesting, I mean, there are many interesting books, but there's one that's called Neuroscience for Leadership, Harnessing the Brain Gain Advantage. Uh, and one, Tara Swart is one of the authors. There were two or three authors. But it's Neuroscience of Leadership, Harnessing the Brain Gain Advantage. Uh, Came out a couple of years ago. A very, very good book. Another one that is also quite interesting is a newer one, is called All the Brains in the Business. What is that? The Engendered Brain in the 21st Century Organization.
The engender brain in the 21st century. Okay. I'm going to look at both of those. I think Neuroscience for Leadership is by T. Swart and Kitty Chisholm.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
that's the one, right? The other one also I'm going to look at it. Well, thank you so much. I was just looking at the clock. We have almost run out of time here.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
but but like I said in the beginning, this is one of my favorite topics. I mean, two of my favorite topics. How do you become better in enhancing your influencing and sales skills, and how do you become better in enhancing your emotional and social intelligence to become an effective leader? So thank you, Manfred, so much for the thoughts. Thank you so much for the conversation. I enjoyed, as always, learned a lot. I think, not to do injustice to the last topic, I would love to start the next conversation when we talk with social intelligence, because I do want to talk a little bit more about that. We covered emotional intelligence in the second tenet today, but did not do full justice to social intelligence. So, next conversation I really look forward to, we'll start with social intelligence.
Let's do that.
Thank you so much, Manfred.
Okay, all the best. Thanks for having me, and looking forward to see you again.
Likewise, always a pleasure to speak to you. Look forward to that.
Bye, Rahul.
Bye, Manfred.